Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're going to be exploring a universally relatable experience. We're looking at the actual science behind getting wonderfully, completely sidetracked while browsing the internet. You know the drill. You sit down with a very specific, productive goal. Maybe you need to check a work document or quickly pay a bill, and suddenly 20 minutes go by and you are totally engrossed in a story you never even knew you cared about. Seriously, have you ever gone online just to quickly check your email and somehow ended up reading this massive, in-depth article about some bizarre news event halfway across the world? If you are nodding your head right now, you are absolutely not alone. This whole rabbit hole behavior, it's not just a lapse in your focus. It's actually a highly studied cognitive phenomenon. There is a real, documented science behind why we do this, how it happens, and what it ultimately means for how we consume information in the modern digital age. Okay, let's dive into this. Researchers Borchulun Yadamsurin and Sanda Erdelez literally wrote the book on this topic. In their work, Incidental Exposure to Online News, they essentially took our everyday digital distractions and formalized them into a legitimate academic field of study. By tracking the online reading behavior of residents in a Midwestern U.S. town using surveys and some incredibly detailed interviews, they managed to capture those elusive, spontaneous moments when we just accidentally discover news. They turn that simple whoops, I got distracted moment into a structured framework. To put this into perspective and give you a real sense of scale, a Pew study revealed that a massive 80% of online news users experience serendipitous news consumption. Basically, 8 out of 10 people are stumbling onto their news rather than explicitly searching for it. So if you ever feel guilty about going off track online, don't sweat it. The data proves you're in the overwhelming majority here. And this brilliantly illustrates just how consistent this behavior is. Of those users, a staggering 59%, so nearly 6 in 10 people, have these happy information accidents every single day, or at least almost every day. Stumbling onto the news isn't a rare glitch in our focus. It's become a daily habit. It's actually a primary way we acquire information about current affairs, simply as a natural byproduct of our regular internet routines. So how does this actually happen? Well, researcher David Tewksbury defines 2 totally different mental modes we use when we go online. First, you have selectors. These folks are laser-focused. They are hunting for specific content based on an immediate need. On the flip side, you have browsers. Browsers cast a much wider net, just sort of absorbing information across a whole range of topics. Our information consumption fundamentally shifts depending on which mindset we're in. And, as you might guess, it's usually when we're in this browser mindset that we open the door for serendipity. Now, there's actually a formal term for this whole shebang: incidental exposure to online news, or ION for short. Researchers define it specifically as those memorable experiences where we accidentally discover useful, interesting, or just surprising news while we're in the middle of engaging in completely different online activities. This definition is great because it elevates our random browsing from simple procrastination to a recognized cognitive event, one where we are finding genuine value when we literally weren't even looking for it. But what is actually happening in our brains during all this? Sanda Erdelez developed the 4-step information encountering model to map it out. First, you see some background information. Second, you actively interrupt your original search to go check it out. Third, you save it or consume it right then and there. And fourth, you smoothly return to your initial task. Imagine you're aggressively searching for a pasta recipe. You spot a wild headline about an archaeological dig. You click it, read it, and then effortlessly navigate right back to your dinner plans. Your brain just switches tracks and corrects itself seamlessly. Let's move to and see how this builds into the real-world data. To understand what's really driving those 4 steps, the researchers knew they had to move beyond just broad surveys. They wanted the full what, when, where, and why. So they conducted qualitative, super in-depth interviews with 20 diverse internet users. And they didn't just ask them questions after the fact. They used think-aloud techniques and even recorded the users' screens to capture these chance encounters exactly as they happened in the wild. So where are we actually stumbling upon all this news? Well, pretty much everywhere. Users reported unintentionally encountering news on web portals like Yahoo, directly inside their personal email interfaces, scrolling through social networks, and on crowdsurfing sites like Dig and Slashdot. Actually, some people reported purposely visiting these aggregator sites, just hoping to bump into something completely unexpected. The digital environment itself acts as a massive catalyst for these happy accidents.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is exactly what catches our eye. One user hit the nail on the head when describing the irresistible pull of a random headline saying, "It is just sort of the news of the weird, just things you sort of never really even think about it, but then it's just so bizarre, you just need to find out about it." Descriptors like outrageous, off the wall, and wildly different came up over and over again. Honestly, our brains are basically hardwired to notice anomalies, and the internet? Well, it provides a literally never-ending stream of them.
But here is the absolute most fascinating takeaway, the emotional psychology behind it. How do we feel when we get totally distracted? It turns out overwhelmingly joyous. An incredible 19 out of 20 respondents reported purely positive feelings about these accidental discoveries. They used words like lucky, excited, and happy. Getting sidetracked doesn't actually feel like a failure focused to us. It feels like a genuine, unexpected reward. One participant summed up this feeling just perfectly. They said, "I guess it's kind of the thrill of the chase, like you really discovered a treasure or something. Is it exciting? Yeah." That thrill they're talking about, that is a very real dopamine hit. Finding a hidden piece of knowledge or stumbling on a story you completely missed triggers this deep evolutionary sense of triumph. Now, to be completely fair and balanced here, the researchers did make sure to document the downsides too. Because while the vast majority of people absolutely love the serendipity, citing continuous learning and acquiring new knowledge as huge pluses, there was definitely some pushback. A few respondents noted that the experience can be incredibly distracting, totally overwhelming, and can often lead you straight into unreliable or heavily biased content. And let's be real, that is a very valid concern given today's web environment. So the crucial point is, why does this all matter on a macro scale? Well, on a personal level, that dopamine release we talked about fundamentally enhances our cognitive openness to new information. We learn better when we're happily surprised. But on a societal level, incidental exposure is absolutely crucial for broadening our democratic perspective. By stumbling upon news we would never actively search for, we are forcibly pulled out of our highly curated echo chambers. We encounter diverse, opposing views that our personalized algorithms might have otherwise completely filtered out. Because this kind of exposure is just so vital for maintaining a healthy, informed public, the researchers actually issue a critical challenge here. They are calling on media platforms, developers, and UI designers to actively build design strategies that catch our attention. If our apps and platforms only ever feed us exactly what we ask for, we stop discovering. They have to intentionally design the web for serendipity. Which brings us to a final, really important thought to leave you with. We now know that these accidental discoveries are vital for learning, for that joyful dopamine hit, and for keeping us broadly informed as citizens. So take a look at your own daily digital habits. Are your highly curated, personalized online bubbles actually leaving enough room for serendipity? Are you letting yourself wander just enough to find the treasure? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope that the next time you get completely sidetracked online, you can appreciate the beautiful science behind it.